A Paradise Called Texas by Janice Jordan Scheffelman. Chapter 9, Mama is Gone. One cold, wet morning in January, a steamer anchored offshore. Mina watched from the tent as a smaller boat rowed toward the beach. "Papa, look, the men are bringing lumber." Papa looked out the door. "I hope they bring no more immigrants. Lumber we can use, but not more mouths to feed." The little boat made several trips carrying lumber and some wooden crates. Then 2 men were left on shore and the steamer weighed anchor. People had gathered on the beach to talk to the men. Papa started out the tent and Mina followed close behind. "I will be back soon," mentioned. Mama did not feel well and had a fever. "Very well, Ernst." When they reached the group, Mina heard one of the men say, "I am Joseph Royce, a doctor." And he began shaking hands with those who stood nearby. He was a young, gentle-looking man who wore eyeglasses and carried a black bag. "And this is my friend Henry Huck. We are from New Orleans. We heard of your plight and decided to come here to help." Papa stepped up and shook hands with both men. "My name is Ernst Jordan, and we welcome you." Papa looked around at the group standing here. "Almost every one of us has had a loved one who is sick." "So I have heard," said Dr. Ross. "I will do my best for each and every one." Then, holding up his bag for all to see, he added, "Here I have medicines that will help, and in these boxes we have brought food supplies." He turned to Huck. "My friend here has a lumber yard. He is donating this lumber to get some shelters built." "We appreciate all this, of course," replied Herr Kaufman, "but we are anxious to be off from this place to our land. In fact, some have left on foot." "The Varan has failed us," Papa added. "There has been no sign of wagon teams. We have had to go hungry. Our children are hungry. Have they forgotten us here?" Dr. Russ shook his head sadly. Looking at Papa, he said, "In Galveston, I learned that the creeks and rivers are up and impossible to cross. But Baron von Musbach, the Varan's new leader, has promised that as soon as the rivers are down, he will get wagon teams through to you." This news brought cheers and shouts from the group gathered around the doctor. "It's about time, thank God." Dr. Russ began to unpack the food supplies. There was salt, cured ham, ship's biscuits, potatoes, and dried fruit. People crowded around him, pushing to get a share of the food before it was all gone. Mina felt herself being jostled, but she fought back, using her elbows to stay by Papa. He took one of her hands in his. "Stop shoving," shouted Dr. Russ. "There will be enough for all. Now, form a line over here, and I will give a portion to the head of each family." As Dr. Russ handed out slices of ham and other supplies, he warned, "Make it last as long as possible." When Papa and Mina returned with supplies, Mama seemed cheered. Papa made a small fire with driftwood and bush limbs they had gathered. Mama cut off a piece of the ham and boiled it with a ship's biscuit to thicken the soup. It was too salty, but it was warm, and Mina felt nourished. Day after day, the men of the camp worked building a shelter. Dr. Russ was kept busy nursing the sick, going from tent to tent in the cold rain. Mama had begun to cough more and more. Her face had grown pale, and she had little appetite. Although Mama shivered under the blankets, her forehead felt very hot to Mina. "I'm afraid it is pneumonia," Mina heard Dr. Russ say to Papa outside the tent. "There are many cases." Mina knew that 3 people at the camp had died from pneumonia. The very word made her heart leap, but not Mama. It could not happen to Mama, Mina thought. When Dr. Russ had left, Mina asked Papa, "Will Mama get well?" Papa's eyes were sad as he looked down at her and patted her shoulders. "We must do everything Dr. Russ said and be sure she takes the medicine." Every day, Mina went over to the little wooden house some distance from the camp. It was the only house anywhere about. Mrs. White made a pot of broth every morning to give to the sick. Mina took a small tin pail with her. She knocked at the door. Mrs. White could not speak much German, but she had a kind face and smiled at Mina as she poured some steaming broth into the pail. Mama was too weak to sit up and eat the broth. Mina had to feed her tiny spoonfuls at a time. "You are a good nurse, Mina." "I want you to get well soon, Mama. Dr. Russ says this broth will give you strength." Mama sighed. "Enough now, Mina." "But, Mama, try to take a little more." "I cannot." Mama turned her face away. Mina let Mama's head gently back on the pillow. Mama seemed to be slipping away from her. "Mina," Mama started and then paused. "Yeah?" "Mina, You are so young. I do not know how to say this. What is it, Mama? Mina felt uneasy about whatever Mama wanted to say. If I should go... No, Mama, don't say that. I must, Mina. No, listen to me and do not interrupt. Mina's throat felt tight. If I go, do not weep long. Mama reached over and held Mina's hand. Papa will need you to be strong. Then Mama began to cough and cough. Mina got out the medication and gave her a spoonful. The coughing had worn her out. As soon as the spell was over, she fell peacefully to sleep. Mina sat watching her. The blankets rose and fell as Mama breathed. Mina closed her eyes and bowed her head. Dear God, please make Mama well. But Mama did not get well. She grew weaker and weaker. No longer did she take the broth Mina brought. So many people in the camp were sick that Dr. Russ hardly had time to sleep. Even with his treatment, many died. Mina knew this. Papa and the other men had used lumber to build caskets instead of shelter. And Mina had heard the crying. Had God forsaken them on this lonely beach? One night, when Papa and Mina were preparing for bed, Mama said, Ernst, call Dr. Russ. Papa looked at Mina, and without a word, she ran over to the doctor's tent. Dr. Russ, you must come right away. Yeah, I am coming. When they entered the tent, Papa was leaning over Mama. She was saying something to him so softly. Ernst, you must take Mina away from here, Mama whispered. I will, Männchen, and you also as soon as you are well. The doctor knelt beside Mama to examine her. He took her pulse, then he took a bottle from his bag and gave Mama a spoonful. He looked at Papa in such a way that Mina knew there was no hope. Papa and Dr. Russ went outside while Mina stayed by Mama, holding her hand. When Papa came back into the tent, his eyes were wet. Männchen, do not worry. I promise to find a wagon for us to leave this place. Mama seemed to relax and smiled weakly at Papa and then at Mina. Papa leaned down and kissed Mama's cheek. She closed her eyes and just stopped breathing. Mina saw that Mama was not breathing. Papa, Papa, do not let her die. Do something. Mina shook her hands helplessly. Papa was looking at Mama's face, so pale in the candlelight. He reached over and held her face with his hand. Oh, Männchen, why did I bring you to this dreadful place? He laid his head on Mama's breast and wrapped his arms around her. Oh, Männchen, Männchen. Mina put her head down on Papa's back and held on for dear life. Mama is gone, Mama is gone, she sobbed over and over. Mina thought back to that night in Verstedt when she lay awake dreaming of Texas. But instead of a dream, it was a nightmare. If only she could awaken and find that she was safe again in Opa's house. Papa and Mina worked at building a casket for Mama. It was a sad job, but having work to do helped Mina. She held the lumber while Papa sawed. Then she helped him fit each piece into place. Papa did not talk much, and they worked silently. Mina could not believe that Mama was really gone. Maybe she will wake up and call her, but Mama did not awaken. Mina tried not to think about putting Mama in the box and then underground. Papa, where is Mama now? Mina asked. Papa stopped working and looked at Mina. Do you think she might fly with the seagulls up to heaven? Perhaps so, my klein Mina. Perhaps so. Do you remember what she said once, Papa? What, Mina? She said she wished she could fly like the gulls right up to the heavens. Yeah, I remember. Papa nodded his head. At twilight, Herr Kaufmann, Herr Hessler, and 4 other men carried Mama's casket along the beach. Papa, Mina, and friends followed along behind. Papa was holding Mina's hand as they walked. In her other hand, Mina clutched the little wooden seagull Papa had made for her. The wind was blowing from the north as they walked up from the beach to the burial site. The men lowered the casket into the ground. Papa held Mina tightly. Then Mina pulled the seagull out of her pocket, broke away from Papa, and laid it on top of Mama's casket. Fly away, Mama, fly away from here. Then Mina ran back to Papa and hid her face against his chest. She did not want to see Mama's casket covered with earth. In her mind's eye, she saw her little gull fly away from the casket. Goodbye, Mama, Mina cried, and she clutched Papa around the waist. Papa led Mina away back toward the beach. Mina looked up toward the heavens. Papa, Maybe Mama is watching us right now, and she is saying, "Take care of Papa, Mina." Papa tightened his grip on Mina's shoulder. "I will, Mama," Mina said. "And I will take care of our Klein Mina," mentioned. Papa looked upward. "We will survive with God's help."